Today, we take a look at events that happened in 2019 in the UK. Emma F.S., a 39-year-old care worker, went missing under strange circumstances on April 28, 2019. 2 days after that, her family contacted the police, and the authorities launched a massive search to find out the truth about what happened to Emma. Police had to search an area of 700 square miles. Emma lived in Kilmarnock in 2019. Kilmarnock is a town and former burgh in East Ayrshire, situated in southwest Scotland. Her home was filled with silence and comfort, and her faithful companion, a dog named Maverick, always followed her faithfully. Emma's life was measured and quiet. She was known among her neighbors not only for her kind heart but also for her ability to find a common language with everyone around her. Her dog Maverick, an adorable West Highland Terrier, was not just a pet but a true friend and was like a son to Emma. Together, they would take long walks in the woods and parks, enjoying the fresh air and the beauty of nature. On April 25, 2019, Emma paid a visit to her parents. Her mother, 70-year-old Margaret F.S., and her father, 70-year-old Ian, were delighted to see their daughter. When visiting her parents, Emma always brought with her an atmosphere of warmth and homeliness. Throughout dinner, Emma's parents shared their memories and plans. These were stories she had heard many times, but each time she found new, inspiring details in them. The conversation at the table was easy and relaxed, and every now and then her parents reminisced about the past, when Emma was a little girl and how they used to go on picnics to the lake as a family. Emma herself laughed with them, immersed in the memories of the carefree days of her childhood. But the conversation did not stop there. Her parents made plans for the future. They told her they were going on a trip to Brighton to visit relatives who lived there. Emma noted to herself how easily and cheerfully, despite their age, her parents made their plans, retaining their enthusiasm for life and new experiences. After dinner, they moved to the living room, where they continued their conversation over a cup of coffee. This evening became, for Emma, not only a meeting with her loved ones but also another reminder of the importance of family, that invisible thread that binds generation after generation, and of what is truly valuable in life. No one guessed that, in just a few days, there would be no trace of the family peace. Emma told her parents that she was going to meet her friend Ross Willicks on Sunday, April 28. Emma and Ross had known each other for 18 years, they met when they both worked as wardens at Kilmarnock Prison. Emma told her parents that Ross had adopted a dog from a shelter, and she wanted to visit him. In a text message, Emma admitted to her sister that she was going to have a bit of a mad one. Ross lived in Fairfield Park, Mahlan. At about 8 p.m., Emma texted a friend to tell her that she was at Ross's house and that she planned to have a glass of wine and stay the night. Emma was usually in frequent contact with her loved ones, and her phone was described as an extension of her arm. But the next day, Emma didn't call or text any of her friends or family. Her mother, Margaret, said this was totally out of character. On April 30th, while Emma's parents were visiting relatives in Brighton, Margaret received a call from Emma's employers and learned that her daughter had not turned up for work. Emma communicated with a family member or friend every day, so her parents knew right away that something was wrong. "We were on edge and decided to report her missing because it was so unlike her," her father said. At about 4:30 p.m. that day, police officers broke into Emma's flat on Fullerton Street, Kilmarnock, and discovered that her pet dog Maverick, who had been heard crying by a neighbor, was home alone. Everyone who knew Emma well was sure she would never leave her dog unattended. Maverick had had an operation on his cruciate ligament, and Emma kept him in a cage while he was recuperating to stop him from running about and jumping. As the last person to see her alive, Ross Willicks became the immediate focus of the investigation, codenamed Operation Solon. He told officers that Emma had decided to drive back to her flat, which was less than 9 miles away, at about 11 p.m. He said they were at his house in Mahlan, and she got worried about her dog, which had undergone an operation, and wanted to take it home. They decided to go to her flat. He said he joined her for the journey and later took about a dozen lines of cocaine. Willox said Emma was positive and upbeat, and enjoying herself. She was talking about her forthcoming 40th birthday and a cruise. He claimed to have gone home in a taxi at about 7 a.m. on April 29. Emma's sister, Miriam F.S., who works in Abu Dhabi, returned to Scotland to join the search for Emma after she was reported missing. She flew back to Scotland on the 1st of May 2019, and began helping in the search for her sister. The next day, Emma disappeared, suddenly leaving behind a feeling of deep anxiety and uncertainty. From the moment her family were unable to reach her, a complex and intense operation to find her began. The police, joining forces with Emma's friends and family, quickly sprang into action. The streets of the city were soon filled with information leaflets with Emma's image on them. They included information about her last known whereabouts and a request to report to the police any information about where Emma might be. Information about Emma's disappearance spread on social media, with each post on Emma's family page attracting more and more comments of support and hope for her safe return home. Emma's family, filled with despair, pleaded with the public every day for help. Any detail could be crucial, they wrote. Please help us find Emma. The police, sensing the importance of solving the case as quickly as possible, also appealed to the townspeople for help. Detectives asked owners of private CCTV cameras to check their footage. Perhaps Emma's figure would be glimpsed among the usual street scenes, or maybe something suspicious would be recorded. Hope and fear mixed into a solid sense of unease, yet all who knew and loved Emma did not lose faith. Hundreds of complete strangers did not remain indifferent, turning the town into a single organism living with a common goal: to find Emma and bring her home. The importance of obtaining evidence in Emma's disappearance became a top priority for the police. Every find could be a clue to the mysterious disappearance of this woman, and every piece of evidence, every word from a witness, became a part of the puzzle that investigators were trying to piece together. In their intense work, it was necessary to take into account every detail. Every conversation with neighbors and relatives became, for detectives, a source of new ideas and possibilities that could shed light on what happened to Emma. The investigative team's ability to thoroughly analyze the evidence was a critical success factor. Their attention to detail and persistence in the search for the truth allowed them to build a fragile but decisive chain of events leading to the unraveling of Emma's fate. In addition, it was important for the investigators to consider not only the physical evidence but also the psychological factors. They tried to understand Emma's character and her relationships with others to see if she had any enemies or what could have driven her to take steps that most people would consider unlikely. Emma's car became critical to the timeline. Footage from a dashcam revealed that her blue BMW 1 Series was parked outside Ross Willox's house at 5:39 p.m. on April 28. The next morning, Emma's car was parked outside her house. However, the odd thing was that the car was parked on the opposite side of the road. Emma had obsessive-compulsive disorder and always parked her car right outside her flat. It was a great stroke of luck for the police when they obtained footage from a private CCTV camera, which showed that the car was not actually being driven by Emma, but by someone else, a man. Let's take a look at the footage that the police released. If you look closely, you can see the driver wiping down the interior of the car, including the steering wheel and the dashboard. Investigators believed that Emma's car was driven by Ross Willox and that he knew what had happened to Emma. Willox did not join Emma's family and friends when they put up posters and distributed leaflets around after she was reported missing. Emma's sister, Sarah F.S., told investigators that after Emma disappeared, she contacted Willox, and he gave her two different versions of what had happened on April 30, 2019. She texted Willox, "Hi Ross, I'm just wondering if she's still with you. No one has seen her." Willox said she was not with him, and when Sarah asked when Emma left, in a text he told her, "Sunday. Maverick was getting rowdy with my dog Patty, and Emma was getting stressed." In a later message, Willox informed Sarah that he had driven Emma home himself. As the search for Emma intensified, experts began to plot Willocks's movements using CCTV footage and analysis of his cell phone. CCTV footage showed Willocks going into various shops in Ayr and buying bleach, rubber gloves, and tins of outdoor disinfectant. Detective Crombie said, "When we put all those pieces of evidence together, it painted a suspicious picture of Ross Willocks's movements." They also examined his background and discovered that he used to build wind farms near the Galloway Forest in Dumfries and Galloway. This became critical when cameras picked up 2 journeys to the area in the days following Emma's disappearance. The first journey, on April 29, was made in his Mercedes SUV. The following day, he made the trip in a Jaguar he had bought for his wife, who was working abroad when Emma vanished. A police dog, trained in detecting the scent of dead bodies, later gave a positive indication during the search of the Jaguar by repeatedly barking at the boot area. Police drafted in search experts from the UK National Crime Agency, as well as an officer who had worked as a wind farm liaison and had intimate knowledge of the area. Galloway Forest Park covers around 700 square miles, and Detective Croy mentioned that some parts look like the surface of the moon. Digital forensic experts analyzed Willocks's cell phone and overlaid it with CCTV footage recovered from the routes he took in the 48 hours after Emma vanished. As mentioned earlier, the police dog signaled during the search of the Jaguar used by Willocks, confirming to investigators that Emma was dead. But they needed more convincing evidence to convict Willocks. They needed to find Emma's body. Once again, police appealed to the public for help. Willocks's vehicles were known to have been on the A714 Girvan to Newton Stewart Road, the Mercedes on Monday, April 29, and the Jaguar on Tuesday, April 30. Detective Martin Fergus, who was leading the inquiry, said, "What Emma's family is going through is unimaginable, and our priority is to find her. I am thankful to the members of the public who have been in touch and provided valuable information, which has led us to explore this area." He continued, "I believe the A714 route is key to helping us find Emma, and I am appealing again to those who use this route regularly. Please take the time to think back and consider if you saw a Mercedes or Jaguar on this road or parked up somewhere, or even off-road. If you have dashcam footage, please check it. You may not realize it, but you could have captured footage that could provide vital information and assist us in finding Emma." Willocks was under constant police surveillance as he was the primary and only suspect in Emma Faulds' disappearance. Another important lead came from Ross Willocks's best friend, Neale Moore. Moore said he spotted suspicious searches on his device after Willocks had asked to use it. Moore told prosecutor Paul Kearney that on May 8, 2019, he found searches he hadn't made, including, "Can cars be traced by GPS? Do police put tracking devices on cars?" and "Can UK police trace your car without a warrant?" Willocks was under surveillance when he was arrested at his mother's house on May 8 on suspicion of Emma's murder. He pleaded not guilty and claimed he didn't know where Emma might be. The Galloway Forest covers an area of about 700 square miles, but using specialist techniques, police were able to narrow down their search. They called in the help of Professor Lorna Dawson during Operation Solon to assist in examining a number of items, including Timberland boots worn by Willocks. Professor Dawson made her findings on June 11, and just 24 hours later, Emma's naked remains were found hidden in an area of Glen Troll Forest, an area someone would not normally walk through. A 92% soil match was found between the boots and the earth that covered Emma's body. A further match from the forest site was found under the wheel arch of the Jaguar car. Willocks knew the area well through his work as a wind farm project manager, but he told police any other sightings of him in the area were because he had been walking his dogs. However, mobile phone analysis also placed him in and around the location. Detective PC said his dog, Bear, who was specially trained to find dead bodies, began barking at a spot in the forest, signaling something had been found. The officer returned to the spot and, after donning sterile gloves, lifted the vegetation. PC stated, "I could see the lower portion of a naked body. Hundreds of mourners gathered at the New Lake Kirk in Kilmarnock to pay their respects before a service at Holmesford Bridge Crematorium. Emma's West Highland Terrier, Maverick, wearing a blue bow tie, led the procession out of the church. On the social media page of the family's butcher business, Emma's relatives finally felt able to make a public statement. They shared that they had received a multitude of cards, hundreds of messages, and fields of flowers during this desperately sad and painful time. This proves there is a great caring community spirit in Kilmarnock and further afield, indeed worldwide, they wrote. Thank you all so much for your support and kindness. It has helped us bear the past few weeks. We're not there yet, and it will be a long time until we get answers to all the questions that have been haunting us, but knowing that everyone is with us makes it easier to bear. The message was signed off by the Faulds family and, of course, Emma's dog, Maverick. Ross Willox was charged with the murder of Emma Faulds. He was also charged with attempting to defeat the ends of justice by hiding Emma's body for days before dumping it in a forest and attempting to cover up his involvement in her death between April 28 and May 8, 2019. Prosecutors allege he disposed of Emma's mobile phone, clothing, and belongings, and that he conducted online searches about blood and how to remove vehicle tracking. They also claim that Willox repeatedly left voicemails on Emma's phone, pretending to believe she was alive, and that he quizzed officers about her whereabouts. The tragic case of Emma F. culminated in the conviction of Ross Willox, who was found guilty of her murder after a 6-week trial at the High Court in Glasgow. Emma's body was found in a remote area of Glen True Forest, where she had been hidden by Willox after her disappearance. Forensic evidence, including soil samples found on Willox's boots and his car, placed him at the location where Emma's body was eventually discovered. Willox, who had been a longtime friend of Emma, maintained his innocence throughout the trial, claiming that the two had been together at a party before parting ways. However, inconsistencies in his account, as well as damning evidence such as suspicious online searches found on his friend's iPad, undermined his defense. Additionally, a police dog trained to detect human remains had signaled at the boot of Willox's Jaguar, further linking him to the crime. A post-mortem conducted by Dr. John Williams could not definitively determine Emma's cause of death due to the advanced state of decomposition, though an injury to her neck was noted. Toxicology results indicated the presence of cocaine and alcohol in her system. Despite Willox's denials and lack of cooperation during the investigation, the jury found him guilty of both murder and attempting to obstruct justice by concealing Emma's body and covering his tracks. Emma's family, devastated by the loss of their loved one, expressed their relief that justice had been served, though the pain of her absence remains. Willox was sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 20 years. The judge, addressing Willox directly, condemned the brutality of the crime, highlighting the emotional toll it had taken on Emma's family and the community. Judge Mulholland, during sentencing, spoke sternly to Ross Willox, emphasizing the gravity of his crime and the heartache it inflicted on Emma's family. He stated that if not for the exceptional work of law enforcement and forensic experts, Emma's body might never have been found, leaving her loved ones to forever wonder about her fate. The judge further remarked that Willox had likely believed himself to be clever enough to get away with the crime, but the forensic evidence and investigative efforts proved otherwise. Throughout the trial, Willox showed little emotion and refused to provide any clarity on what had transpired the night Emma died. He continued to maintain that the bottles of bleach found in his possession were for cleaning his home's decking, not for covering up evidence. The exact events leading to Emma's death remain a mystery, known only to Willox. The investigation into Emma's murder relied heavily on forensic science, expert analysis, and public assistance. Professor Lorna Dawson's soil analysis was a crucial piece of evidence that helped investigators narrow down the search area in the vast and remote Galloway forest. The public also played a role, with police appeals for dashcam footage and information about sightings of Willox's vehicles proving invaluable in piecing together his movements in the days following Emma's disappearance. Emma's family, while grateful for the conviction, remains heartbroken by the loss of their beloved daughter, sister, and friend. In a statement released after the trial, they expressed their sorrow over how their lives had been irreparably changed by Emma's violent death. They also voiced their appreciation for the support they received from friends, the local community, and law enforcement throughout the 2-year ordeal, stating that the conviction had brought them a sense of justice, even though nothing could bring Emma back. Ross Willocks's sentencing in June 2021 brought some closure to the case, but it left many unanswered questions, particularly about what exactly happened the night of Emma's death. While Willocks may apply for parole after serving 20 years, Emma's family will continue to live with the pain of her loss for the rest of their lives. In the end, the case serves as a reminder of the importance of community involvement, forensic science, and persistent police work in solving complex cases. Emma's family's grief is compounded by the betrayal of someone they trusted, someone who, for nearly 2 decades, had been a friend. The legacy of Emma's life is now entwined with the fight for justice her family waged on her behalf, ensuring that Ross Willocks will remain behind bars for many years to come.